Good morning and welcome to Our Issues Milwaukee. I'm your host, Andrea Williams. Our focus this morning is on human trafficking. Human trafficking is the second largest organized crime in the world. It's a modern day form of slavery involving the illegal trade of people for exploitation or commercial gain. Traffickers use force, fraud, or coercion to lure their victims and force them into labor. They look for people who are vulnerable for a variety of reasons, including economic hardship. My first guest is chair of the Human Trafficking Task Force of Greater Milwaukee, Miss Dana World Patterson. How are you, Dana?
I'm well. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. And needless to say, this is a very important subject that we're discussing today. So if you could tell us more about the Human Trafficking Task Force and its mission.
The Human Trafficking Task Force of Greater Milwaukee is an affiliate of the City of Milwaukee, and we sit with the Commission on Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault. Mm-hmm. Our mission is to eradicate human trafficking through coordinated services, awareness and education, and policy and legislation.
Okay.
And monthly, we have about 40 strong people that come to our meetings. And we rub elbows with each other, and then we go into our respective areas to do the work of eradicating human trafficking. We all believe that it's a problem, not only in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and the globe, mm-hmm. but there are many people that really see the need and are working to eradicate this issue.
Yeah, and we're going to talk more about how you go about doing that. As you just stated, this is not just a situation in one particular place in our country or on the globe. It's everywhere. An estimated 2 million children, the majority of them girls, are sexually exploited across the globe. The problem here in America, in my opinion, is that a lot of people envision that this is something that happens more so in third world countries. Correct. Or scenarios like that, but it's happening in every single corner of our state right here in Wisconsin.
Exactly. J.B. Van Hollen gave us the wonderful quote when he shared with us that it has been documented in all 72 counties. And although that's nothing to be proud of, it does speak to the layers of what's happening throughout our state.
Yeah, and let's talk about that local issue, specifically here in the city of Milwaukee and some of the surrounding areas. Milwaukee has actually earned the reputation as the Harvard of sex trafficking nationwide. Not something that we're proud of, I'm sure.
No,
so
the Harvard
what
of
does
Pimp
that mean?
School.
Wow. So that means if you want to learn how to be the best at this,
Correct.
This is where you come.
Exactly.
Wow.
And Wisconsin being so Milwaukee being the Harvard of Pimp School, and then I'm losing my quote right there, but that's true.
Uh-huh.
That's absolutely true. And although we do not have the source, we have to make that known. It's still quite sobering to think that Milwaukee has this underground organization that is strong enough to garner that name.
Yeah. Yeah, especially when you look at some of the larger cities that you've got Chicago right up the road, and I'm sure that Chicago being so close to Milwaukee plays some type of role in allowing people to go up and down the highway.
Exactly.
and manipulate individuals.
It
like
creates
this.
a track. But the ability for an organization such as human sex trafficking and human labor trafficking to be so strong is that it happens underground. Mm-hmm. So even when we quote those numbers, we don't really know what's going on in our city. Although we do know that group homes, that individuals who have been trafficked are being rescued, and they're going to group homes, and they're going to having direct services. We know that this is taking place. So it is happening in our city, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, and I mentioned some of the reasons that individuals could find themselves in this situation, but many people are manipulated, and they're simply forced by this perpetrator using violence or threats or false promises to control their victims. And so I've read that many times the young ladies that find themselves in these scenarios really think that they found a nice guy who has gone out of their way to buy them gifts, take them out to dinner, maybe, you know, even pay their bills. They think they found someone they can trust, and then the tables turn.
He shows up as a boyfriend, gets to know the family and where everyone lives, and they call him the finesse pimp. So he's nice, and he just kind of brings you in. A lot of it is vulnerability. They speak to the vulnerability, and that's why some women and girls call the pimp daddy, you know, because of different needs. There's a pimp that says, for one, he wants the victim to have low self-esteem, to have trouble at home, to already have been molested by a boyfriend, an uncle, father, you know, someone close, and that they buy the dream. So it can be anyone. I just left a presentation with one of MPD, and she said it's important for individuals to know that everyone is vulnerable. It happens to the inner city girl just as it happens to the person in Sheboygan, Mequon, Brookfield. And as a result of these counties becoming aware of it through awareness, task forces are being formed, and with more and more people knowing, we're able to do something about it.
Yes, and speaking of the task force, the Human Trafficking Task Force of Greater Milwaukee, your meetings are open to the public, and some of the things that you do are bring community leaders in. You've got maybe government agencies, faith organizers, all these different people, even survivors and their family members. So this has got to be a very interesting conversation or meeting that takes place. What are some of the things that are discussed?
Oh boy. We try to discuss policy. We look at the three tenets, the coordinated services, awareness and education. We're starting to lift the conversation around labor trafficking. That's a concern. But we're always talking about how can we be better aware of what's going on and the different intersections that touch human trafficking.
Okay. And you meet specific times each month. So if somebody from the community would like to be a part of that, when exactly do you meet?
We meet once a month on Tuesdays. They can contact me. Do you mind if I give?
Oh, go ahead.
httf@milwaukee.chair@gmail.com.
Okay, and so that is via email. We'll put that up on the screen so they can jot that down. And these meetings actually alternate between you doing full groups or breaking those groups down into maybe 4 groups. So there are different things, I'm guessing, that are discussed, and you take that information away and really put it to work to make a difference.
Exactly. And it changes from meeting to meeting, but it's important for us to be strengthened. So as individuals come, if they're interested in coordinated services or awareness and education or policy and legislation, then we will break into those, our core missions. And then we talk about how we can eradicate human trafficking through those efforts. That's one way we do it. Another way, as you said earlier, is we bring in different individuals to talk about human trafficking so that we can understand the layers that are involved. The more we've learned, the more there is to learn. Wow. We started 6 years ago learning about human trafficking, just beating the drum that it is happening within our community. And the more we learn, there's more to learn. So we just continue to meet, and it amazes me that we have 40 to 50 people coming monthly. And because of the brevity of this conversation and how it is affecting our community, those that started in the beginning are doing wonderful things, and now we have a new group, And I trust that they'll be strengthened to go out and do really wonderful things, and we'll get a new group in. And then individuals continue to come, as with the task force being a hub, so to speak, where you can come and be strengthened and learn what's going on and just stay connected.
Yeah, and that's refreshing, especially when you look at the severity of this situation. Statistics actually show that the average age of entry into prostitution is 12 to 14 years old, and 1 out of 3 teens on the streets will be lured toward prostitution within 48 hours of them actually being on the street. So that's a scary thought, and definitely something for young people to be aware of. Sometimes they think things are bad at home, but things are always much worse on the streets.
I agree, and there is a splitting of the hair. You know, it's one thing to be involved in prostitution, but we have the punitive definition through the Protection Act that we received in 2000, where you need force, fraud, and coercion. A child cannot consent to sex. So she is a victim of human sex trafficking. She's not a prostitute. Mm-hmm. And for women, if there's force, fraud, and coercion, she's not there of her own volition. She's not just willing to sell her body. Someone is forcing her. And many people say, well, she's an adult, you know, why won't she leave? There's an invisible line, an invisible gate that's present, and they just can't leave. One, if he showed up as a boyfriend, we know a woman that was finessed for 4 years. She thought she was in love. You know, he was her guy. So he knew all the intricacies of her family. It wasn't easy to just leave because you have the force, the fraud, and the coercion. And usually the finesse pimp ends up being what they call a guerrilla pimp, and he becomes brutal.
Wow.
So there's a lot to contend with.
Yes, and there's a lot to be learned about this whole subject matter. It's very interesting. And before we run out of time, you actually have your own foundation that you've started in order to continue with what you're doing with the task force as well, to strengthen women and girls and to eradicate human trafficking. So tell us a little bit more about it.
Foundations for Freedom, Inc. is designed to eradicate human trafficking. I've been teaching etiquette and image for 25 years. And one of the major components is vulnerability. So my organization is designed to reduce those vulnerabilities and increase self-confidence, self-esteem, work with women and girls so that they can be better. One, prevention is worth a pound of cure. So while we're able to work with individuals when they are victims, we also want to strengthen them so that they will not have to face being trafficked.
Yes.
And that's what the organization is designed to do. And I'll share this with you. I came to human trafficking 6 years ago, maybe a little bit longer, about 7 years ago, because I was noticing that girls were increasingly angry. I've been in many, many schools, and I'm thinking, why are girls so angry? What's going on? I happened to go into a high school. I had been working with a group of about 15 high schoolers, and this particular day, I asked how many of them had been touched inappropriate. 14 of the 15 girls had been touched inappropriate.
Wow.
And as they went around the circle, they mentioned that it was their grandfather, their mother's boyfriend, their brother's friends, and they went around, all but one had been touched inappropriately and still experiencing this for some, and others who had never told anyone. So when you think about it, was, even though that was a small sample, it was very telling as to why girls are so angry, plus the language of a pimp who says that I'm looking for those who have been molested already. And that gave me the intersection and the connection to etiquette and image and how I can affect individuals who are maybe in the life or prevent it.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing that. And we've quickly run out of time, but I know that there is a major campaign that's going on as we speak dealing with human trafficking. And we are so privileged to have the marketing company that has put that together here. So we'll find out more about that. And I thank you so much for all that you're doing.
Thank you for having me.
It's
I
been a
appreciate the
pleasure.
conversation.
Thank you. Dana World Patterson is chair of the Human Trafficking Task Force of Greater Milwaukee. You can log on to milwaukee.gov/health for more information. And when we return to Our Issues Milwaukee, we'll be joined by the founder of the country's only all-volunteer nonprofit advertising agency, whose mission is to give underserved charitable causes a stronger voice in the community. We'll meet Gary Miller of Serve Marketing right after this.